Welcome to the Black-Liberation.Tech podcast, brought to you by Jordan Nuance LLC and hosted by Dr. Renee Jordan. This podcast is a accumulation of Dr. Jordan's dissertation work and her passion for empowering Latinas, Afro-Latinas, Black women, and girls to navigate the academic and professional worlds with confidence and success. Whether you're a mother or guardian guiding a child through grades 6 through 12, an undergrad or grad student, someone working on a dissertation or thesis, or simply looking to carve out your niche in the career landscape, this podcast is for you. Each episode, Dr. Jordan shares her story, offers invaluable advice, and provides practical coaching to help you thrive in school, work, and beyond. Join our community on patreon.com/Black-Liberation.Tech and become a member for as low as $5 per month. As a member, you'll gain exclusive access to live recordings, impromptu academic and career coaching, and a network of like-minded individuals committed to mutual support and success. You're also welcome to follow Black Liberation Tech on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and LinkedIn, or Black Lib Tech on X, formerly known as Twitter. Visit Black-Liberation.Tech for even more information on Dr. Jordan's adventure in Inglés o Español. Tune in, get inspired, and let's embark on this journey together. Welcome to Black-Liberation.Tech, where your success story begins. Welcome to the Black-Liberation.Tech podcast. I am your host, Dr. Renee Jordan, and I am here to talk to you about how you can turn your data that you collect during your graduate research assistantship into conference proposals. Specifically, I want to share my experience with the AMAYS Project, Acquainting Metro Atlanta Youth with STEM. This was an NSF-funded program that my advisor was awarded, along with two other Co-PIs. He was the principal investigator, and there were two other Co-PIs, so co-principal investigators on this grant. I entered the program in June of 2015. I learned about it while talking to him in preliminary doctoral seminar courses, as well as in advising conversations. And so I asked him, well, let me know if you need any help. I have experience writing curriculum. Let me know if you need any help. I'm interested in helping. Do you need a graduate research assistant? And that was over the summer. And in the fall, he took me on as a graduate research assistant. And during the research and development phase of the grant, so the first year of the grant, I worked on curriculum development. Over the summer of 2016, we actually launched the alpha test, so a short modified version of the program. Now, before I started the PhD program, I do need to take a step back and share that I spoke with one of my colleagues back in 2014, 2015 about my interest in getting a PhD, and he explained that it was important for Black people to know that when you get a PhD, you want to make sure you say yes to all the opportunities that are available, because when you graduate, everybody has the same degree, everybody has good grades. You don't have a choice in graduate school. The question is, what did you do during your time in the program? So I did not wait for opportunities to just land in my lap. I actually sought them out. And as a part of seeking them out, I asked my advisor about his NSF grants, the AMAYS program, and expressed an interest in being a part of it, explained how it aligned with my research interests and what I could bring in terms of curriculum development and experience as a biology teacher. So I worked with him for the first year on curriculum development. During the second year, over the summer of 2016, to be specific, we launched the alpha test. So it was a modified version of the program that was offered during the summer. And so during the alpha test, students were able to use MIT App Inventor in order to create mobile applications, and we provided them with the instructions. As a result of the alpha test and taking a course in qualitative research. It was a special topics course, and it was entitled Holes in Qualitative Research. I took that course and I used the data that we collected during the alpha test as primary data for my research project during this course. And my research project was to write and submit a conference proposal specifically to AERA. I want to make sure that I highlight the importance of presenting during your doctoral program. You want to show others that you are actively engaged. You're not just taking classes, but you're applying what you learned while you're in the program and putting it in places that are noteworthy. So while the PI and Co-PIs were interested primarily in the quantitative data that was collected during the program, as well as some focus group interviews, my role was to take down participant observations. So I wrote down what I saw happening during the program. And I also had informal interviews. So I would ask students questions about what they were doing. And the qualitative data that we collected then informed the PI and Co-PIs on how to prepare, modify the protocols that would be used to collect the quantitative data, as well as help them to decide on what models to use in order to run the quantitative data. And the qualitative data also allowed them the opportunity to provide updates to NSF on the progress of the grant. For example, like the alpha test, when there weren't enough students to actually have quantitative data that was of statistical significance, meaning that the sample size was too small. So the qualitative data helped with filling in the gaps there. When implementing the alpha and beta tests, that qualitative data captured the kinds of questions that they were asking, as well as the assistance that they were receiving, who they were receiving the assistance from. To start, it was myself and another graduate research assistant. And then it increased and more graduate research assistants came on as the program progressed. And during the implementation year, so we had the alpha and the beta tests, and then during the implementation year, we scaled up to multiple schools, and there was one graduate research assistant at each of the schools. Now, when I say use your data collected during your graduate research assistantship as primary data for conference proposals, there's one more step. You need to play with it during your actual research courses. So whether you're taking quantitative research courses or qualitative research courses, find a way to bring it in when you have an assignment so that you're working with that data as opposed to secondary data. So secondary data is data that you did not collect, but you went and retrieved. For example, I could get data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, and I could work with that data in order to run tests, quantitative tests to see where there were possible correlations, but not causations, correlations between different types of data. However, primary data that you collect is important because you will have a chance to take a look at what it is that you're doing and what the possibilities are for that data. And so I took a course, and it was entitled Holes in Qualitative Research. And so it was a chance for us to explore different methodologies, so different ways of approaching data collection and analysis. And one of the most important things that I learned in that class was that with certain methodologies, there are philosophies that guide them. And as a result, those who use those tools are approaching them from a specific philosophy or specific lens, if you will, if we're talking about glasses and how you are seeing things. And so I was finding that there was a conflict between the methods that I thought I wanted to use and how I actually saw the data as a Black person. And I'm not saying that all Black people look at data the same way. However, I did learn about Afrocentricity in this class because it was one of the tools that was referenced by one of my classmates. And I also learned about Ubuntu, which is an African philosophy. And so out of frustration, if you will, I was like, well, let me try something else. So I took pictures of their books and started reading what the tools they were using were about in terms of the philosophies that were behind them, or the assumptions that are made when these things are used. And I want to encourage you to look up Afrocentricity as described by Molefe Asante. And I also want to encourage you to read about Ubuntu. At that time, I was using Desmond Tutu. However, there are others who use Ubuntu, and I want to encourage you to look them up. And so with these tools, I was essentially able to take a stance that aligned with how I approach data collection as well as data analysis and the philosophy of Ubuntu and the English translation offered by MBITI, MBITI, is I am because we are, and since we are, therefore I am. I'm going to encourage you to look at my dissertation. I'll put the information in the description box, but I'm not going to go into all of that right now. But in short, I was able to learn about these different ways of approaching research, find ways that aligned with how I wanted to approach research. And as a result of working with my advisor, I was able to use the primary data that I collected. And please note, all data collected when you are on a grant as a graduate research assistant belongs to the PI and the Co-PIs. So you have to talk to them about what it is that you would like to do with the data, and get their permission because it belongs to them. The PI and Co-PIs are the owners of the data and essentially sign IRB and grants that say that they will make sure that the data is used in intended ways and appropriate ways and ways that are ethical. So as a graduate research assistant, even if you feel like I'm doing all this work, it doesn't belong to you and you have to get permission. So, and as a result of working with my advisor and running things by him, I was able to use the data that I collected for a conference proposal. And that also doubled over as an assignment for the class. And being able to work with the data in the class was important because I was able to get feedback on it. Now, it's also important to note that although the data was primary data from my graduate research assistantship, I did explore it in ways that were unique to my research interests. So it covered the purpose of the grant, but it was like a little bit just when you analyze data and when you're doing a conference proposal, you're not looking at the entire project as a whole. You're just looking at a small piece, if you will. And so that small piece, I was taking a look at how students interacted with technology, not only based on how they were engaging with our instructions for the MIT App Inventor part of the program, but everything else that they were doing. So if they were looking at Google, what were they looking up? If they were playing on their phones, what was it that they were playing with? What games were they interacting with? Because I was curious about what students were doing with technology while they learned, whether it was with our program or in side conversations or their other engagements during the program. So that was how I catered or crafted the conference proposal in a way that informed my advisor as well as the Co-PIs, but also allowed me to dig deeper into how students in general interact with technology. I want to emphasize that working with primary data enhanced my learning experience because it moved what I was learning about in class from being theoretical or hypothetical, something that was outside of myself, if you will. So if I got data from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, I don't know who they sampled. I wasn't in control of who they sampled. I'm coming in after the fact and just taking what they have and running some models in SPSS to see what correlations I can come up with. But by working with primary data, I saw the people who I collected the data from. I know who was there. I know how many days they attended specifically. It's not figuratively, oh, 3 people attended every time and 5 missed one session and 1 person only came once. I was able to see who did what, when, where, why, and how. And I had all that information up front, and it was, of course, names were removed, and all of the appropriate steps were taken to make sure that the data was de-identified to protect the privacy of the individuals who participated. But I could say, oh, based on those who came XYZ days, these are the different things that they did, so forth and so on. And I had that information firsthand. Understanding that there are people who engage in a program and decide not to participate in the study, that's good information because people actually have that option. And so when you say, oh, yes, we had a sample, even if you were able to give the name of the region from which you sampled, you could also say there were people who opted out and therefore their data is not recorded or available in this study. Another benefit of working on primary data during my coursework, it allowed it to be hands-on. It was me as an actual researcher and not a figurative researcher or someone practicing, but this was me doing research. And I was able to get feedback from my professor on my performance, as well as get recommendations on how to improve or enhance what it was that I was doing. And so I was able to get hands-on practical application of being a researcher. And that information could then be used to inform the next iteration of the program. So the alpha test took place over the summer. And then in the fall, we launched the beta test from fall through the spring, a full academic year of the program. And that's not possible if you are working with secondary data. You're forced to settle with whatever practices that the people did in order to collect the data, which also means that you're not sure what that process actually looked like. You just have the results. So that's the importance of working with primary data in order to enhance your learning experience, get hands-on engagement as a researcher. And when you do it in your class, you can get feedback from an expert who you can have a conversation with about your work. Whereas if you submit it to a conference, they'll give you feedback, but if you are denied, then you have that feedback that they provide, and then that's still valuable. You still can learn from it, but you don't have the chance to resubmit to that same conference with the same reviewers to say, hey, these are the changes that I've made based upon your feedback and your recommendations. So in my special topics course, I decided to have a conference proposal as my final project. And I decided to submit to the American Educational Research Association. And I was able to submit a preliminary draft, if you will, to my professor for that course so that I could receive a grade. And then I took feedback from her and I went to my coworker who had his doctoral degree. And so we took a look at my proposal and we made edits. And then I sent a copy to my mentor and said, hey, this is the same mentor that worked with me through my PhD application. She also served as my mentor all 7 years that I was in that PhD program. So this is another reason for Ubuntu. I am because we are, since we are, therefore I am. If it wasn't for my advisor, my qualitative research professor, my mentor, my colleagues, I would not be here today. So let's keep it 100 because I couldn't make it through by myself in and of myself. These opportunities, I would not have the chance to have them if other people did not see something in me that they wanted to bring along and work with or pour into in order to help me along the way. So my mentor, I sent her a copy and it was like due at midnight. And so she was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if it's too late. It was like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. It was late. And I was like, nope, we have time. It's midnight Pacific Standard Time that it's actually due. And so that meant I had until 3 a.m. to fine tune and work on it. And I did. I made sure that I sent my advisor a copy of what was being submitted and I turned it in. And that was my first single author paper session. So I want to say I had maybe 15 minutes and then 5 minutes for questions, paper proposal. And I was accepted and I was ecstatic. I was thrilled. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And so I had my dad and my brother come to San Antonio in April of 2017 so that they could see me present. And I invited my professors who were there, as well as a research group that I was a part of. It was a group of primarily Black women. There are also Black men in that research group, but I invited them to my session. And so I had family, I had friends, I had classmates, all in that session. And so it was a great experience. I received good feedback. The feedback that I got from the reviewers, I took that into consideration. I brought it back to the attention of my professor, said, look, this is what so-and-so said. How can I update it? What changes should I make? So forth and so on. And so it was a very enriching experience. And I did that multiple times in multiple research classes with the same professor. I know she was like, what in the world? But she saw that I was working at it from my angle, and that's what she definitely respected about what it was that I was doing in terms of working with my advisor. Some students just took it as a chance to do the work of their advisor. And so whatever the advisor wanted to do in terms of researching the data, that's what they were doing in class. And that wasn't cool because that's for the advisor to do, their professor. So it's one thing to explore a part or a portion of work in order for you to learn about how you fit in with this research. based on your own research interests. So I was using Afrocentricity and Ubuntu. What I was doing was different. It had a different approach. It offered a different layer. And it's not that it was right or wrong, it was a different lens. So those different lenses that you can use as tools in qualitative research have their own way of viewing things. And so the one that I aligned with happened to be Afrocentricity and Ubuntu. And Ubuntu is an African philosophy. With all that being said, I want to encourage master students as well as doctoral students and undergraduate students, high school students, anyone working on research projects to take advantage of your research projects as ways of developing your scholarship. So conference proposals, journal articles, take advantage of it because it will only allow you to get better. One of the other things that I would do was that I would serve as a reviewer for conferences and journals. And so that allowed me to provide people with feedback and also think about what it was I was doing. So I'm not going to do the same thing that someone is submitting in terms of a conference proposal. I'm not going to do that same project, but the thought processes or the clarity behind what it is that I'm talking about, if I'm asking somebody to make sure that their methods are more clear or clearly identify how the methods they use are informed by different philosophies, then I have to make sure that I do the same when I write. So when you serve as a reviewer, it's also an opportunity for you to reflect on your own practices. When you submit and you get feedback, it's an opportunity to grow. When you're at the conference and people ask questions and they give you feedback from the audience, that's another opportunity for you to grow. So growing as a researcher requires you to actually do the work. And so I want to encourage you to do the work of research. You're more than welcome to ask me questions or leave comments in the place where comments and questions can go. Thank you for tuning in to the Black-Liberation.Tech podcast, brought to you by Jordan Nuance LLC and hosted by Dr. Renee Jordan. We hope today's episode has inspired you and provided valuable insights to help you navigate your academic and professional journey with confidence and success. Remember to like, subscribe, and share, as well as rate and review the podcast to help it become more discoverable. Whether you're guiding a child through grades 6 through 12, tackling undergraduate or graduate studies, working on a dissertation or thesis, or exploring your career options, this podcast is here to support you every step of the way. Join our community on patreon.com/Black-Liberation.Tech and become a member for as low as $5 per month. As a member, you'll enjoy exclusive access to live recordings, impromptu academic and career coaching, and a network of like-minded individuals committed to mutual support and success. Don't forget to follow Black-Liberation.Tech on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and LinkedIn, or Black-Lib.Tech on X, formerly known as Twitter. Visit Black-Liberation.Tech for even more information on Dr. Jordan's adventures, available in both English and Spanish. Stay inspired, stay empowered, and keep moving forward. Until next time, take care. Bye-bye.